हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू अवर चैनल। इस वीडियो में हम we will be discussing the second part of our story, that is three questions. I am going to summarize a story in English, so you just listen carefully and please make it sure you will be here till the end of the video. Now, second part will be starting. After the hermit said and pointed towards a person who was running towards them, the king turned round to see who the person was. This means that the person was behind the king's back. After the king turned round, he saw that a bearded man was running towards them. He also noticed one more thing. What was that? The king noticed that the man's hands were pressed against his stomach. And what was flowing from it? Blood was flowing from the stomach. Then, when he reached the king, he lost his consciousness, or you can even say that he became unconscious or he fainted. Then he fell to the ground. The king and the hermit went towards him to help him. They removed the man's clothes and found something. What did they find? They found a large wound, a large cut in his stomach. The king washed the wound, meaning that he cleaned the blood. Then he covered the wound with his handkerchief. However, the blood would not stop flowing. So then what did the king do? The king redressed the wound, by which the bleeding, the flowing of blood finally stopped. This is how they helped the bearded man. Now, after the man became conscious, he said he felt better and also asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. By this time, night had already come. The air was cool. The king and the hermit carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The bearded man closed his eyes and rested for a while. The king was tired by his walk and all the digging and treatment he had done. Then he awoke, and it took him 2 or more minutes to remember where he was and who the bearded man lying on the bed was. This shows how tired he was. Now, when the bearded man saw that the king was not sleeping any longer, he apologized. He apologized in a weak voice, which states that he was not fully fit and fine. The king, to whom the bearded man was a stranger, said that he didn't know him and did not have anything to forgive him for, meaning that he did not know the reason why the man was apologizing. Now, in this paragraph, you do not know me up to forgive me. In this paragraph, we get to know about the bearded man and why he was injured. He was the king's enemy and had promised to take revenge from the king due to 2 reasons. What were the 2 reasons? 1. The king put his brother to death. Second, the king seized his property. Then we get to see his plan. He knew that the king had gone alone to meet the hermit. His plan was to murder the king when he would return, and he even hid. However, the king did not get his answers and so he didn't return. The bearded man, who was confused by this, decided to leave his hiding place. This was a mistake. He met the bodyguard, who recognized the man and knew that he was the king's enemy. The bodyguard wounded the man, so the king would be protected. The bearded man escaped from him, but he had a large wound in his stomach. The bearded man should have died, but survived because of the king and the hermit. The bearded man wanted to kill the king, but got saved by the king. This changed him. This made him realize that the king was a nice person. He declared himself to be the king's most faithful servant, someone the king can always trust. He promised that he would order his king to do the same. Then he apologized again for the revenge he had decided to take from the king. Now, the king was very happy. In this paragraph, we get to know about the king's reaction when he heard the bearded man's story. He was very happy to have made his enemy become his friend so easily. He forgave the man and promised two things. One, that he would his servants and own doctor to take care of the man, and second, that he would give back his property which he had seized earlier. Now, the next paragraph would be, after the conversation between the bearded man and the king ended, the king left the wounded man, yani the bearded man, inside the hut. He came out and searched for the hermit. Why? The king searched for the hermit as he wanted to ask the three questions once more. That would be his last chance. If the hermit would stay quiet this time, the king would return to home. This is what the king decided. The hermit was on his knees. What was he doing? He was sowing seeds in the beds which the king and the hermit had dug up the day before, meaning yesterday. The king went to the hermit, repeated the three questions, and begged the hermit to give the answers. Now, after the king asked three questions and begged for the answers, the hermit finally replied, and what he said made the king confused and shocked. According to the hermit, the king had already got the answers to his three questions. The king, who obviously did not understand how he already got the answer, asked the hermit to explain what the answers were. So the hermit explained what he meant. He said that if the king would not have pitied his weak and tired body, he would not have dug the beds for him. He would have gone away. This would have resulted in the king getting wounded by the bearded man who was his enemy at that time. Then the king would have to have stayed with the hermit only. Hence, the most important time then was when he was digging the beds out of pity. The most important person then was the hermit himself. And the most important business then was to be helpful and nice towards the hermit. The hermit then uses another example to make the king understand. Afterwards, when the bearded man was introduced, the most important time was when the king was taking care of him. Why? The most important time then was when the king was with him, as if the king would not have treated him, he would have died without making peace, friendship with him. So hence, the important person then was the bearded man, and treating him was the king's most important business. What do we get to know from this? We get to know that the answer may be the same, but the particular time, person, and business changes according to the situation or problem the king is in. Here we get to know the answer to the first question. What was the first question? Remember, please. It was, what is the right time to begin something? So according to the hermit, there is only one time that is the right time to begin something, and it is the most important time. When is it? It is now, meaning the present. Why? It is the most important time because it is the only time we have any power to act. How is this true? Well, no one can act in the past nor in the future. Hence, now is the only time we have any power to act. Here we get to know the answers to the second and third questions. The second question was, who should the king listen to? Well, according to the hermit, the person we are with are the ones we should listen to. As no one knows the future and we don't know if we will ever meet any other person in the future. So the third question was, what is the most important affair? According to the hermit, the most important thing to do is to help the person we are with. Our aim should be to make people happy. as that is the reason why we were born and sent into this world. This is our purpose. I hope you will get better understanding of this chapter. So please, if you have just learned something from this video, please like my video, do subscribe my channel, press the bell icon, and please share with your friends.